Under the shadowy, gaslit streets of Düsseldorf, in the late 1920s, a predator lurked, a man whose thirst for violence and blood earned him the infamous title of the Vampire of Düsseldorf. This was no ordinary killer. Peter Kürten's crimes were a blend of horror and depravity that plunged the city into a nightmare of fear, leaving scars that would never heal. Düsseldorf, Germany was a bustling city on the cusp of modernity in the interwar years, its vibrant streets masking the economic struggles beneath. But in 1929, its tranquility was shattered. Bodies began to appear, stabbed, strangled, and mutilated in ways so grotesque that even seasoned investigators were left reeling. The victims were diverse: men, women, and even children. Each attack seemed more frenzied and random than the last, spreading an atmosphere of helplessness and terror. Among the early victims was a young girl, Maria Hahn, whose body was discovered in a forest bearing evidence of prolonged torture. Then there was Christine Klein, an innocent 8-year-old, brutally slain in her own home. For people of Düsseldorf, the realization that a sadistic killer walked among them became an unbearable weight. Parents kept their children close, workers hurried home before dark, and whispers of the vampire filled every corner of the city. The police were overwhelmed. The lack of a discernible pattern or motive made Kürten's crimes nearly impossible to predict. His attacks were scattered across neighborhoods, his victims chosen seemingly at random. He left behind few clues, yet his audacity grew with each crime. Adding to the terror was Kürten's obsession with drinking his victims' blood. In several cases, he confessed to biting and drinking from his victims, revealing in the act as if it gave him power. This chilling detail only fueled the media frenzy, branding him the Vampire of Düsseldorf. The case went cold for months, during which Kürten continued his spree unobtained. His cunning and ability to blend into society proved his greatest weapons. By day, Kürten was unassuming, even charming. He was a married man, polite to the neighbors, and the very picture of civility. But the night, he was a monster, prowling the city for his next victim. The turning point came with the attack on Maria Baldilic in May 1930. Unlike his other victims, Maria survived. Though terrified, she went to the police, recounting her encounter with a man who lured her into his lair, but inexplicably let her go. Her description and the note she had received from him became the breakthrough the investigator desperately needed. The investigation narrowed its focus, and Peter Kürten's name surfaced. When confronted, Kürten shocked the authorities by walking into the police station and confessing, not just to Maria's attack, but to a staggering 79 crimes, including the last 9 murders. His confession was chillingly detailed, each word revealing a man who derived pleasure from the terror and pain of others. In court, Kürten's demeanor was unnervingly calm. He claimed his upbringing, marked by abuse and neglect, had shaped him into a killer, but his statements about his crimes were devoid of remorse. He described the moments of violence as thrilling, likening the flow of blood to music that stirred his darkest passions. Peter Kürten was sentenced to death by guillotine, a fate he seemed to accept with eerie composure. On July 2nd, 1939, as he faced his executioner, Kürten's final words added one last layer of horror to his legacy. Tell me, will I hear the sound of my own blood gushing from my neck? That would be the pleasure to end all pleasures. The Vampire of Düsseldorf is a remembrance as one of history's most chilling killers. His name synonymous with depravity, the scars he left on Düsseldorf remains, not just in the memories of his victims' families, but in the collective psyche of the city. Peter Kürten's story is a grim reminder of the evil that can hide behind the facade of normalcy. His crimes continue to haunt true crime historians and those seeking to understand how such darkness could reside within a man. The streets of Düsseldorf have long since healed, but the echoes of the vampire's reign of terror linger, a chilling chapter in the world of crime.